This video will show you 3 things that your higher self wants you to know. I'm going to share with you things that you may have forgotten that when you remember can totally change and transform your life. Welcome back to another video. My name's Aaron and I help people expand their consciousness. Now in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you those 3 things that your higher self wants you to know that if you do know can totally transform your life. Now let me first off explain what the higher self is, how we can understand how we can connect to it, and the ways we can go about this to really remember these kind of things. Now the higher self, and a lot of times is referred to in spirituality with the larger portion of ourself. The idea is that we're having a life experience and that our ego is not only who we are. Our ego is just one part of the kind of experience that we're having. Now, I will say that I do believe that the ego is a part of the experience. Now, we don't need to be identified with the ego, but the ego, anytime we make the ego the enemy, we make it resistance within ourselves. Instead, it's about being aware of what our ego wants or how we are being in the present moment, but not being necessarily attached to how things happen, being attached to the thoughts that we're having. Now, think of it like this metaphor. This makes it a little bit easier to understand. If we have a mountaintop, we have our higher self is in a way on a mountaintop. On top of a mountaintop, has a higher point of view, a more expanded perception, can see further than our ego can see. Now think of our ego as in a valley beneath. So it's in a valley, and what's happening is our ego is going up through the process of reconnecting with the higher self. It's going up the mountain, it's climbing up. Now, the way that it works is the ego's at the top, or the ego's at the bottom, the higher self is at the top, and the ego moves in the direction of the higher self. And as the ego starts to follow the excitement, which is the first part of this thing that you can remember, is the higher self wants you to know that the way you connect to the higher self has to do with the feeling and the emotion. When you tap into the feeling and the emotion of excitement or passion, that is your body's translation that is telling you that this is what you're meant to be doing, that this is in alignment with your higher self. Now, sometimes you may be going up this valley and you may see a dead end, or you may see some type of blockade or river that you don't know how to get across. Now, the thing is even though it may appear longer to keep trusting and keep going along the path of the passion that you feel, the idea is that you'll actually get up there much quicker because the higher self has a higher point of view and can see that if you just walk this way, you'll see a way that you can get over the river, but you may not understand it yet. So it's follow that feeling, because that feeling will lead you to the shortcuts that get you up to the highest expression of how you prefer to be quicker than ever. Now, this is really simple, but when we start to apply it, when we start to more so just focus on our feeling, how we feel in the present moment, and whether we are making choices based on our excitement, that's when so much can begin to change. Now, I know even for me, what I began to do is I began to more so focus on the feeling. When it comes to manifestation, when it comes to creating what I want in life, I realized that the more I was focused on the intellectual blueprint of how I thought things need to happen, the more resistance I created. When I just made it about the emotion and the feeling of doing what I love, things happen more easily than ever. Because what I was then able to do is I was able to simplify it and make it something that I could always do in the present moment. Because even if the outer circumstances don't look exactly the way I want, if I could just choose to feel the way I prefer, things on the outside work out anyway. So that's something that your higher self wants you to know. Follow the feeling and the passion within you, because if you follow the feeling, that is your body's translation that this is what and who you're meant to be. Now, how can you practically apply this in your life? It's simple. All you got to do is do things that you're excited about. Ask yourself the question, what is the most exciting thing I can do in this moment? And then do that thing. It doesn't have to be excitement like you're just, energized with so much energy and you're like going down a roller coaster ride. It could be something as simple as, I feel a peaceful excitement to go to the park right now. I feel a peaceful excitement to go walk my dog, to go eat something. Whatever it is, do it. And as you make those decisions in your life, it will begin to ripple out in multiple different ways. And it will begin to change your life in a very powerful way. But you have to simply trust the process and follow that passion. That ripple effect will lead to you doing the overarching thing in your life that you can be passionate about. Even if it doesn't seem relevant, it will leak into it because everything is resonance. And when you start to resonate with that, you start to resonate with your higher self, and that emotion that you feel is the way that you translate and the way that you communicate with your higher self. So the second thing that your higher self wants you to remember is that you've forgotten who you are, and that is okay. When you're born into the human experience, when you're born here on earth, what happens is there's a veil of forgetfulness where you forget who you are, and that's part of the process. Now, this is a very painful thing for a lot of people from certain perspectives because people forget who they are, things happen that are negative, and we say, why did that happen? But in the larger scheme of things, from a larger perception, and your higher self knows this, you are an immortal spiritual being having a very temporary human experience. You have always existed and always will exist. This is what quantum physics shows us. This is what physics shows us. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It simply is. You exist now and you will always exist. So at a certain level, you can just relax. Because this experience is an experience. It's something that you chose at a certain level. And for a lot of people, that's hard to hear because I've made videos talking about this before, and some people don't want to hear that. But the truth is you did choose it. You may say, how did I choose all this pain? How did I choose all of these things? Because there is a lesson in it or something for you to become more of. Through pain, if you're experiencing a lot of pain in your life, and you have, that's a good sign that you are about to go through a very expansive experience. Because this is what happens when painful experiences come in, it creates pressure. And with that pressure, you're able to spawn out of it and become more than you priorly were. Pressure is what creates diamonds. So you're a diamond, honey. That's what you can really begin to connect to. Is understand that is who you are. And when you connect to this, it can change your whole life. It changed my life. I started to meditate. I started to connect to this more of a spiritual type aspect of myself, and I realized that I'm so much more than I priorly thought that I was. And by me saying that that's who I am, that's who you are too. I'm not saying I'm special, I'm enlightened. I'm saying that I had that self-awareness and that you can also have that self-awareness. That you are much more expanded than you priorly thought. And your higher self wants you to know that. Wants you to know it's okay if you went through pain. It's okay if you're going through pain. But that pressure will allow you to grow in many ways. And not just that, but to remember that this is, in a way, a life experience, and there is a veil of forgetfulness that comes on. Now, think of it like this. If you were playing a video game, and you knew that it was a video game, if you were logged into a video game and you knew it was a video game, would that change your perception of it? It would. You wouldn't take it as seriously. Or maybe part of the video game itself, part of the game of life itself, is to remember who we are. That is one of the purposes in life. Purpose of life is to be lived and also to remember who we are at a deeper level. And if you can really let this sink in, this can change your whole entire life. Because when you do that, you then start to become aware of how you can let go of patterns that no longer serve, how you can let go of karma, how what you put out is what you get back. You remember all of these things, and that's something your higher self wants you to know, is that you are an immortal spiritual being having a temporary human experience, and that you can also start to empower yourself in knowing that you are much further vast than you priorly thought that you were. You can start to know that you co-create your own reality with your thoughts, your emotions, and your beliefs. And most likely, if you've been watching my channel, then you know that that's an important part of this channel, is understanding how to go about that process in a very practical way. So you are that which you seek because you are an immortal spiritual being having a temporary human experience. And coming aware of that will change your whole life. It will allow you to have peace in mind, knowing there's so much more than what we experience. And that leads me to the third point of understanding that our higher self wants us to know that we are multi-dimensional. Now, that's a funny word, right? Multi-dimensional. What's that mean? Well, think of it just like this in a more simplistic way. We have right now our 5 senses that we mainly agree that we have. Our 5 senses we use to interpret reality. We can see, we can hear, we can touch, we can smell, we can taste. We do these things, and this is how we interpret the world around us. Now, the thing is that is a vibrational interpretation of what is happening. Our senses are vibrational interpreters. However, just in the same way that the second point was that we are much more vast, that we are immortal spiritual beings that forgot who we are, in a similar way, what we experience through our senses is 1% of 1% of what we can experience in totality. There is vibration, there is light, there is everything, everywhere. We just can only perceive of a small sliver of it. Now think about it. You've got infrared, you've got X-ray, you've got these machines that can see X-ray vision and infrared light. Does it not exist because we can't see it with our eyes? No, it still exists. Our hearing, we can't hear the sound of a dog whistle. We can't hear certain frequencies. But guess what? They still exist. There's still certain frequencies of sound. So in the same way, we are much more further vast. We are multidimensional in our senses itself. Now, I'm going to take this a step further in understanding that we are multidimensional beings, that because we've forgotten who we are, we forget that in our dream state, we are expanding ourselves out to a much further scope of perception. We forget every night when we come back, or every morning when we come back into our body, we forget that we had multidimensional experiences while we're sleeping. We go outside of time and we go into higher dimensional aspects of ourself. We exist in multiple different variations of ourself right now, but we are only remembering this one right now because it's relevant. If you remember that you exist in the higher dimensions when you're asleep at night and when you're not consciously aware here, guess what? You might not want to be here because the higher dimensions are dimensions of love and light and unconditional love. And when you come here, you're remembered of all the duality, of all the stuff that you don't prefer. So what happens? You feel resistance because you're like, I want to be over there. So what do? The higher self shields that information from us in a loving way because it's not relevant to our life experience. It's not conducive to us really growing in the most optimal ways. So this means that we really are so much more vast than we priorly thought. We are multidimensional. When you go to bed at night, you are doing things that you simply don't remember. You are connecting to other people, maybe other people that have passed on. You have that option. You are in higher dimensional states of consciousness. You are an immortal spiritual being having a temporary human experience. Now, if you want more, what's the proof of this, you might say? Well, one that I have read many, many books on is Dolores Cannon. Dolores Cannon passed away a couple years ago. She has over 17 books of transcripts of hypnosis sessions that she did. She was a world-renowned hypnosis teacher. She would teach people how to do hypnosis. It's called QHHT, Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And what this technique could do is get people to what is called the symbiotic state of consciousness. It's one of the deepest levels of activity where you can talk straight to the higher self of somebody. So she would interview and have transcripts of thousands and thousands of different people that have come to her. And you want to know something interesting? Even though she was going to multiple different people all around the world, many times there was very similar type information that would come through about the planet right now and what we're going through as a collective. People are here right now because there's a major transition that's happening on the planet. More and more people are waking up to who they are. We are remembering and going through a spiritual renaissance of how we prefer to be. Even if we're not aware of it consciously right now, it's something the collective is beginning to go through right now. And through these people, through multiple different people, there's transcripts saying this person came to go through certain experiences and came to remember who she is or who he is, and came because it's about this time of awakening. The earth needed it. There are people here to help raise the vibrational consciousness. Higher aspects of ourself decided to come here. And that's our ego. That's who we are now because we are helping making a transition and a transformation on this planet. Now, I know this sounds very out there, but guess what? There are thousands of people that have gotten to this deep level of brainwave activity, this deep level of hypnosis. When they come out of it, a lot of times they don't even remember what they said because it was coming from their higher self. So they have it on recording and they can listen to it and they're like, oh, I didn't say all that. And they listen to it like, whoa, I said all of that. That's what I'm going through. That's my higher self talking. And that Dolores Cannon could talk to them, their subconscious mind, and their higher self, and get information to why this person incarnated at this time, what they do in the higher dimensions, what's going on the planet at this time. And I want you to know that on the planet right now, this is the most potent, important, and transformative time to be on the planet than ever before. This literally is going to be the best time to be alive now, ever. And it's about us really transitioning and understanding, trusting the process, and knowing that our higher self wants us to know that you chose to be here because this is the most transformative time that has ever existed. If you want more, check out Dolores Cannon and her books. There's 17 books. Some of them are 600 to 700 pages. They're all transcripts. And there's QHHT practitioners that you can get this done through. I haven't done it yet. I probably will at some point. But you can get put into this state using, these practitioners will put you into a certain type of symbiotic state. Your higher self will come through, and you can have a whole bunch of questions that you have this practitioner ask. And nonetheless, you'll find out more and more about who you are. Now, another part of this process is understanding that when we raise our vibration, we make all of this more possible. We connect to our higher self at a very deep level. So if you want a free guided meditation that will show you exactly how to raise your vibrational set point and your level of consciousness, I've created an MP3 that will help you to do that. You can download it in the top of the description box below, and it will help you so that you create what you want even easier. You exist in that high vibe state, and you follow your higher self's guidance more powerfully than ever. So another thing I'll be doing is I'll be doing more live Q&As on Instagram. If you want to ask me questions, have more of an interaction with me, go ahead and follow the link below, and I will have that kind of dialogue with you. It's kind of cool to be able to have more of an interaction rather than just the videos. So go ahead and follow me there as well. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to like this video if you guys liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the little notification gear so that you can see the daily vids that I do. And other than that, as always, peace, much love, and namaste.